Jeff, I'm thinking about going on a diet. Do you have any suggestions?
Well, you look like a kind of guy that really needs to go on a diet, but diet fads seem to be a popular thing. They come and go. I've heard about them even when I was a kid up until just a few weeks ago, and I was curious about some of the diet fads that have come and gone, so I did a little checking on it.
So you went to the internet. You know, this is what I tell people. If you have any questions, any kind of question, Google knows the answer. Google knows everything.
And don't always believe everything you read on the internet, because you can find anything on there.
That's
so
true.
It's kind of like studying the Bible. You take a multitude of various texts and put them together, and you know you can get a pretty good summary of whatever might be correct.
I guess basically what we're saying is that we tend to go to what we want to find.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. But in dealing with this, I just was curious on what kind of different diets are available out there. And if a person's wanting to maybe lose weight, or they're just wanting to be in better health, they might want to consider some of these diets.
Like what?
Like the cabbage soup diet. Now that sounds like a diet that really could clean out your system, doesn't it? Or the South Beach diet. That's been a pretty popular one.
That was popular.
Of course, there's been a lot of talk about the Atkins diet, and maybe we'll discuss that a little bit more. The Scarsdale diet plan.
All right.
The 3-day diet plan, and I'm sure if there's a 3-day diet plan, there's got to be a 6-day or 5-day, but there's also the 7-day all-you-can-eat diet plan. Now that sounds like an interesting
That sounds like a win-win.
Or how about one good meal diet plan? That's the 1 meal a day plan.
Yeah, that's right.
And then there's, I like this one, Dick, the Russian Air Force diet. I don't know, it's got to be just cabbage,
Carrots
and carrots and borscht or something.
Borscht, right.
The Some Fast Jump Start diet. Now that's a tongue twister, say that quick. The grapefruit juice fruit diet.
You know what I'm thinking? I'm thinking some of these diets are so complicated that you could exercise just pronouncing them. You actually lose weight just pronouncing the name of the diet.
Well, I went through and looked at the program for each one, and really it's a rehash. Except for something like the cabbage soup diet, there was some interesting twists on that. And then the mayo diet, which is a real famous one. And then there was the new mayo diet. It was a spin-off of the Mayo Clinic diet, which was the mayonnaise diet.
I was going to say, when it says mayo, I was thinking, is that Mayo Clinic or
Here's
mayonnaise?
one that some people would like, the chocolate diet. I know some people that would go for that one, or the popcorn diet. And then, of course, if you're really desperate, you can go for the caveman diet.
Oh, my.
But basically, as you look at these, there's basically 2 different categories. One is that the underlying principle is either the no-carb diet or the starvation diet, one of the two.
Well, of course, when you talk about the starvation diet, the bottom line is you want to lose weight, stop eating. Of course, that carries risks with it. I think we should say here, it's obvious here on the front end of this program that we're going to be talking about health issues. And we want the whole world to know that we're not doctor and
I'm
so
not a dietitian by any
We're not
means.
dietitian or health educators. And so if the people don't mind, we're going to talk about health sort of from a layman's point of view, sort of the man in the street.
Yeah. Down where the rubber meets the road type of approach.
And can we do a little disclaimer that we may not say all there is to say, and there might even be other people that would disagree with what we would say. But we're trying to find a road to walk.
You say there might be some people that will disagree. When you bring up the subject of what you eat, I find out a lot of people disagree about everything. I mean, this is probably they say the most sensitive nerve to a man is his pocketbook.
Yes,
well,
right.
I think really the most sensitive nerve to a man is his stomach, but it's a toss-up, which is true.
You know, I was interested in some of these sounded ridiculous. I suppose I shouldn't say that because they must have been meaningful sometime for somebody. Why do you think that we're looking for diets? I mean, what's this quick fix type of thing?
Don't you think it's the mentality of our society today? Is like you have a problem, you want a quick fix to take care of it. Rather than looking long-term situations, we want it now type of mentality exists in our society. So you notice that there's a problem, you're not feeling good, or there's something going on in your health, it's easy to turn to a fad diet to try to remedy the problem instead of looking to maybe some other alternatives that maybe, as we'll be bringing out in this program, has to do with just general lifestyle.
How can I still, excuse my way of saying this, how can I still pig out and lose weight at the same time, have the best of both worlds? I feel like I need to lose some weight, but I can't stand the thought of having to, have a little self-control.
Sacrifice. The 7-day all-you-can-eat plan. That's one of them, right?
But you know what happens too, excuse me for interrupting, Jeff, but and maybe this is not the time to to drop this into our discussion, but it is possible, as I said just a moment ago, stop eating causes anybody to lose weight. But I think that what we've got to look out for, it doesn't take a whole lot, to lose 25 pounds. But then we think that now that I've lost this 25 pounds, I'll go back and live the way I was. And then we come up with a new 35 pounds.
And so you see people are on a roller coaster constantly. And as we're talking on this subject, we're not just talking about losing weight or that aspect of it. When people think diets, they think oftentimes that's what it is. But I know people that are on different diets because of different other health problems they have, like diverticulitis or ulcerative colitis or some of these different things. So a lot of times diets and things that are related to health have a lot more to do with it than just losing weight.
And I think what we want to say here at the outset is that we want to talk about health. A mutual friend of ours said something that I've never forgotten. I've heard it it was about 20 years ago. I heard him say it. He said, "Health isn't everything, but without it, everything is nothing."
That's really true,
isn't that true?
Very true.
Health is really the asset that we must protect. And of course, we go to great lengths to do that, but so many times we don't do it until it's broke. And I think that a healthy lifestyle will not necessarily fix something that's broke, but it tends to prevent something from happening. So when something is broke, it can be pretty broke.
Yeah,
but
sure.
it seems to me that the idea of a healthy lifestyle is to keep it from happening in the first place.
Yeah, it's preventative.
I believe it is.
And curative. Let's turn to the Bible real quick and take a look at what the Bible says about health. And it's 3 John chapter 1, verse 2.
"Beloved, I wish above all things that thou mayest prosper and be in health, even as thy soul prospereth."
So right at the onset here, the scriptures talks about wanting to prosper us with good health.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's a very, very important part of what we're going to be discussing today.
See, this is one of the, shall we say, advantages or disadvantages about not abiding by health laws, is that when the pilot makes a mistake, you find out about it right now. When we make a mistake in health, we may not find out about it for 30 years. That has its advantages, but once it starts to happen, we've got some problems.
Well, you heard about the town that had the big debate, didn't you? There was this town that was split, and people were arguing, the politicians were arguing because they had this big cliff on the edge of town, and people were falling off this cliff. People go up there, it was kind of like a lover's lane type thing. They go up there and park their cars, but people would fall off this cliff, and the town got into this big debate about what to do about this cliff. So some people suggested what they needed to do is build a big hospital at the bottom of the cliff with an ambulance service there. So as people fell off the cliff, they would have a really good medical service to run over there, pick them up in the ambulance to take them to the hospital. Well, some other people are saying, no, that's not what we should do. What we should do is put a fence up on top. And they said, no, that's ridiculous. Not a fence. A fence won't stop people from falling off. Really, we need a good ambulance at a good hospital. And it's kind of a little spin-off. But sometimes we focus on the ambulance and the hospital at the bottom of the cliff, but we don't focus on the fence that needs to prevent us from falling in the first place.
Grandma used to say, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure.
Good old saying.
It seems that it's consistent. When you buy a new car, if you look in the glove compartment, there's going to be an owner's manual in there. Now, some people may never open that owner's manual up, but they would do well to do it because it's not just propaganda trying to get you to buy another one. If a person would follow what's in that owner's manual, hey, that car's going to last longer. They don't waste words in there. It's really serious. And when you think that God created us, and that not only did He do that, but He gave us some pretty clear instructions as to how to get how to get some mileage, how to live clear till the very end. And when we talk about diet particularly, and I think we want to talk about more than diet, as you said earlier.
Because good health is a lot more than just eating. It's a big part of it, but it's more to it than that.
But there's no doubt that the way we're eating these days, together with our lack of exercise, which we're going to talk about in a few minutes, is having a huge impact on our life. I heard, and this was about a year ago, and it was at the beginning of a particular year, that 1 baby in 3 that was being born that year was going to have diabetes before the end of their lives.
And that's in the United States here?
1 in 3 in the United States. Yeah.
And what was the cause of that? Did they say?
Well, it's the diet. It's the diet, and of course we would put on that the lack of exercise. I don't want to be disrespectful to anybody, but you travel overseas quite a bit, and so do I. And you can notice when you're back in the States, and it's not by the flag that's I think our population is the heaviest population of any that we'll find.
And some of the Europeans too. Western European countries have some of the prevalent problems that we have here in the United States.
Of course. It comes with a kind of of a fast food environment. You know, if we go to the Scripture, it gives us some pretty good guidelines. Now, it doesn't tell you what to have for breakfast, but I thought it was interesting, and I think it's worth the trouble to go to the first book of the Bible. In fact, it's the first chapter of the first book, but it's verse 29. When God had finished creating everything, he then says what to eat. And he says, and God said, behold, I have given you every herb-bearing seed which is upon the face of the earth, and every tree into which is the fruit of a tree yielding seed, to you it shall be for meat. Now, I know when we say meat, you know, we think, oh, meat. But you notice that God here is using the word meat, referring to vegetables and fruits and nuts and so forth.
Yeah, and we would challenge our viewers to just take a look in the Strong's or Young's Concordance and look up that word meat, because that meat is talking about general fruits and vegetables.
That's right, it surely is. And so obviously then, it would seem to me that the God who made us, who gives us kind of what it takes to operate us, it's just like when you get a new car, it says, use this octane, don't use this one. No one's going to put sand in their, in their gas tank. But I'm afraid that when it comes to eating, we're putting worse than sand in the gas tank.
Yeah, and like we talk about it, the most sensitive to a person's nervous system is their stomach. It's the most sensitive nerve that they have, and when this subject comes up, you can see the hackles raise on people, because no one likes to be told what they should or shouldn't eat. So it becomes a sensitive subject, but at the same time, it's probably coming back to the fad diet thing, is that what we all really desire more than anything is to have health. And so when we start to see that we start to have health problems, we become victims, can easily become victims of people who have agendas to sell us a fad diet.
That's true.
You know, and so it's easy. You can see why in an American lifestyle, especially here, where we want everything, fix it now. You know, if your car is broken, take it in and have it repaired. You know, it's like you and I said one time, when we live in a disposable society.
That's
you
right.
just use it and throw it away. But you like to try to think that you can't necessarily throw your health away because you die. And so what ends up happening is that you can really end up becoming victim to people who want to try to say, just try this, take this diet. This diet will fix everything, rather than looking at the bigger picture, like we talked about earlier, the bigger picture of everything involved with our life. You know,
I was talking with a doctor one time, and he referred to the placebo effect. You know, the placebo is really the nothing. In other words, sometimes when they're studying a particular new medication, they'll give one test group the real medication, and they give the other one the placebo, which is really nothing. It could be water, it could be a sugar pill, or whatever it is. And this doctor, Jeff, said that in 30% of the cases, the placebo works, which really says to me that when a person gets sick, that in 30% of the cases, within whatever they mean by that there's like spontaneous remission. In other words, it just kind of goes away.
So you're saying some of it's in their heads?
Well, it just happens. But you see, I guess what I'm suggesting is that this 30% factor allows people to take advantage, to invent things. In other words, they could say, well, you know, I got a friend of mine, and one day he was mowing the lawn and he fell down and he accidentally ate a mouthful of newly mown grass. And you know, before that he'd had headaches, and he didn't have any more headaches. And so we start selling grass.
Hey, Dick, hold that thought. We need to take a quick break here. You're watching Laymen Ministries Crosstalk. We'll be back in just a moment.
Around the world, the workers of Laymen Ministries are winning people to Christ. Laymen Ministries believes that in Christ there are extraordinary abilities in ordinary people, and that Christ has purchased each of us for the purpose of ministry.
I think what I'm hearing you say is that this matter of health is so important to all of us, because remember what our friend had said, health is not everything, but without it, everything is nothing. That this makes us vulnerable then to faddish things, to even to fraud. You know, there are people that pay huge sums of money to get well, or to get better, or to say it, even to lose weight, and they're just losing their money. They're losing more money than they're losing weight.
We know we talked earlier about food isn't everything, but we want to discuss food. And I noticed that you had some fruits. Well, what is this here?
Here's the conclusion I've come to. You know, we live in an age in which it's fast food everything. It's fast food. Now, I don't know if this is very scientific, but personally, I feel that the more we process food, two things happen. The basic nutritional value tends to go down.
That's true.
And the cost goes up. And so my conviction is that the closer we come to eating it, the way it comes naturally, that under normal circumstances, now there may be exceptions, the best thing to eat is the natural thing. Now I know we can make a pie out of this, we can make sauce out of this, and it can taste pretty good.
Hey, Dick.
But there's still nothing like a good fresh apple.
This is pretty fast food, by the way. Just peel it and eat it.
Hey, now, let me show you something, and I want to show our viewers this too. You see, you were holding it this way, and you were saying
that's
peeling
the
it.
Monkeys way.
Monkeys peel them from this way, and it gives you total control over it.
Yeah.
So try that sometime, huh? It works better. But anyway, the point is that God gives us the product. And the closer we come, now this doesn't mean that we can't prepare the food, but I'm not sure that everything that can be eaten is best eaten raw. However, I think that we ought to have some raw food in our diets along the way, though some people will say most of it ought to be that way. But again, remember what you and I said at the beginning, we're not doctors or nutritionists, we're just plain old people in the street trying to live healthy lives.
A doctor friend of mine made a profound statement once. He said to me, he said, "Jeff, you are what you eat," said the wise old man, and if that's true, you just might become a garbage can. And so, we need to really consider the things that we eat. And instead of always leaning towards the fad diets or something new or spectacular that comes along to try to remedy things, I think that the answer is actually really simple. And as you pointed out, this is pretty simple. And the more we get back to the basics of simplicity, not only in diet, but in just our general lifestyle, reducing stress, getting proper exercise and other things that we'll talk about here in a second, that it's going to generally cause us to have better health.
Let me just
and in fact, even be something that can cause us to have healing in our lives if we have a sickness or a disease.
Let me just comment on the eating part. I read somewhere that for the American families eat 40, or they spend 40% of their food budget to eat out, and it seems to be not from a religious point of view. But it seems to be common knowledge now that fast foods, eating out, is doing us, in some places, it's doing us harm. It's doing us harm. Whatever happened to mom calling the family, time for dinner, time for supper, and it was home cooking. I can remember when the restaurants and the diners first began to put signs in front of their places that said home cooking. Why was it saying that? Because home cooking is probably the best.
Something better. It tasted better and it was better for you. There's a lot of research that's been done about a vegetarian diet, and we know there's people that different kind of religious views and stuff that advocate vegetarianism. But I think I know from a biblical point of view that vegetarianism is something that's promoted in the scriptures. Because you look at the original diet was free from meat, and it wasn't introduced till after the flood because of the shortage of fruit and vegetables. And it's interesting to note that after meat was introduced into the diet, the lifespan of man started to degenerate. And one of the diets right now that's really popular is the Atkins diet. And these what they call the low-carb diets emphasize the use of a lot of meat, free fats, and some green leafy vegetables, and that's about it, but eliminate all grains and any kind of carbohydrates at all, and mostly fruits. And I was doing some research, and I thought it was really interesting because I want to read to you about the Atkins diet, because these are people who are using an excessive amount of meat. This is one of the main staples in their diet.
Okay.
In a contrast to looking at the choice of vegetarian, looking at being a vegetarian. It says the Atkins diet is the classic profile of the fad diet scam. Promise people can eat whatever they want. Tell them this is a new and amazing revolution. Promise them that they won't have to make any effort. Tell them that the results will be nearly instantaneous, and make sure they think everybody else is doing it, if it were only true. But the scientific reality published by thousands of peer-reviewed medical journal articles is clear. The food on the Atkins diet is based on the very foods that contribute to our most common causes of disease, disability, and death. That's John Robbins in The Food Revolution, page 61 through 62.
I have, from a layman's point of view, I've wondered about this Atkins diet because it plays down carbs. Now, it seems to me that bread is a carbohydrate. I think I'm mostly right in that.
Bread is the staff of life, I thought.
Well, see, that's where I'm going. I'm saying here in the model prayer, it says, "Give us this day our daily bread." Here would Jesus be inviting us, to eat bread, and it would be not healthy for us.
And we're not being disrespectful of the fact that some people have wheat allergies because they've used too much wheat or anything like that. But the point is that a lot of doctors have pointed out the fact that this Atkins diet, where you're using a large amount of meat, is really detrimental to your health. Here's another doctor, James Anderson, MD, a professor of medicine and clinical nutrition at the University of Kentucky School of Medicine. He says, "This is absolutely the worst diet you can imagine for long-term obesity, heart disease, and from other forms of cancer. If you want to find one diet to ruin your health, you couldn't find one worse than the Atkins diet."
Now, I hope the phones don't start ringing off the hook, or at least you're going to have somebody to answer the phones, because obviously, as we've said at the beginning, people are going to disagree.
Yeah.
But I guess the point is that we shouldn't think that there's a quick fix, that there's just one lever we pull, that we do this and our problems go away.
Well, here, Dick, this is something that's really interesting, is the fact that when you look at the medical research that's been done on different kinds of diets and things, 1 year they'll say this, and then 2 years they'll say this.
I noticed that.
And the next year they'll say this, and the next year they'll say that. And there's one thing that I have a tendency to agree with, is that the scriptures lays down a basics of a very simple natural diet that was given to us originally, and I really believe that we should be heading back to that.
I
because
agree.
Eventually, when we are translated and we get to be in the glories and wonders of heaven, I don't think they'll be killing animals up there and milking cows. I think that we're going to be back to an original diet, and we should be heading that direction.
There's a text that even says there'll be nothing that hurts or destroys in all my holy mountain. That means there's not slaughterhouses in heaven.
Oh boy, we're going to have some of the meat activists calling our ministry too and saying, "What are you doing?"
Have you noticed that as the years go by, there's more and more reason to stay away from animal products? I was listening to the radio the other day, and they were talking about mercury. I even read someplace that certain supermarkets in their fish displays, in the meat display, they're putting up disclaimers. They're actually warning the people that this fish may have mercury in it.
Interesting.
And by the way, this mercury is coming from the deep fish. It's the fish that people eat all the time.
Well, it's not only the deep fish. How do you like North Idaho? Pretty beautiful, looking at the lakes here. We hardly have any population.
Yes.
You would think that if there was any place in the world that has clean lakes and clean rivers, it would be here in North Idaho.
So. You would think so.
But you go up here right to Lake Coeur d'Alene, and it says warnings right there, only catch and eat like 2 of these certain kinds of fish, or those kind of fish, because of the high lead content.
No.
Because of the mining that took place here years and years ago, where lead sediments were draining in from the rivers and going into the lakes and settling. And heavy metal stays in the food chain for a long time, like mercury. Lead is another classic example. Even arsenic and some of the other metals like that are found in the fish.
Well, there are certain people that say, well, I don't eat meat, I eat fish. And now we've got problems with fish.
I was in China, and they said, "Oh, vegetarian, only have chicken and fish in it."
Yeah. Well, going back to the meat side, we don't even have to tell our viewers about the mad cow disease and all that goes with that. The point is, God started it off really natural, and we need to be headed back that way.
You have people in the United States kind of putting down, from a medical point, the mad cow disease scare. But at the same time, I just saw a news release here that showed that they are cracking down on the makeup manufacturers, because the makeup manufacturers that make things like lipsticks and things oftentimes use animal products. And one of the products they use is cow brains.
Oh, brother.
And that's one of the ingredients. And so now a lot of the places that are manufacturing these cosmetics are getting away from the use of animal products because they're afraid of people putting this stuff on their lips and actually coming in contact with mad cow disease.
I think before we get to the end of the program, because you said at the very beginning that health is more than just what we eat, I think for us as Seventh-day Adventists, one of the things that really gives us motive and purpose. It's what we call the 8 natural remedies. And maybe it's possible, or it's more accurate to call them the 8 natural preventatives.
Yeah,
in other words, we ought
That's
to
putting the fence on the top of the cliff.
On the top of the cliff. Why don't you go down and tell us what these are?
The first one, of course, is diet, which we've been talking extensively about in this program. And then exercise. A lot of people I know, we exaggerate as Americans a lot, but there's some people I know that emphasize diet, but they don't get exercise. And we have to recognize this is a lot more than diet. We're talking about a lifestyle here. exercise.
Now, let me just say something to this. Exercise hides a multitude of bad diet. You know, I use the illustration that our forefathers, our ancestors,
The farmers?
may have been eating awful, but they were walking behind a mule all day, and that tended to compensate for it.
Well, that's really true, because they've shown studies on farmers that ate high cholesterol diets, that as long as they remained active, that really didn't have any impact on them. But as soon as they went into retirement and sold the farm, and they continued to eat the same way they'd been eating, they ended up having a heart attack or a stroke.
Okay, the other.
The next one is water.
Water.
Using enough water. Sunlight. This is something that people don't talk about too much, and they're not talking about sunning beds, by the way. In fact, there's in California right now and in France, they've just passed new laws that if you're under 18 years of age, you can't use a tanning bed, I believe. I just heard that just last week. Temperance. A good definition of temperance is
self-control. Let's just say self-control.
Yeah.
That's what it means.
And fresh air, rest, and then trust in God. Yeah. So it's a package deal. You know, need to get exercise, we need to get plenty of water, sunlight, fresh air, and eat a good diet.
You know, my favorite in this list is temperance, self-control, because I think that if we could get self-control in our lives, then it would tend to give balance, because you know, a person could actually exercise themselves into a nervous wreck, if I could say such a thing. I think one of the problems in health is that we become obsessed with it. We become obsessed with it. I think I'm not so sure.
Are you saying that they become obsessed? You mean that some people make it their whole religious experience somehow?
I think so. Well, it becomes their whole life. In other words, unless I have my 8 glasses of water today, you know, my day's ruined. Unless I've run my 3 miles, my day is ruined. Unless I have such and such for breakfast, you know, I must be. I got to be rebaptized.
Or maybe we need to take this a little farther. Unless I think that you need to run your 3 miles, or you need to drink your 8 glasses of water, that you need to be rebaptized. And there's some people that kind of have a tendency to have an agenda with the area of health, and I think we want to be sensitive to that.
But I think what we've tried to say in this program is health isn't everything, but without it, everything is nothing. And that we need to take health more seriously, because although the mortality rate for this race is 100%, we want to be healthy until the last day.
It's a gift of God. It's the gift of God. And that's why in 1 Corinthians 10:31 it says, whether you eat or you drink or whatsoever you do all to the glory of God.
Amen. Amen.
You've been watching Laymen Ministries Crosstalk. We hope you found this program helpful for you. If you have any comments or like to contact us, you could do so at writing to us at Laymen Ministries, that's 414 Zapata Road, St. Mary's, Idaho, 83861. Or you can call us on our toll-free number at 1-800-245-1844, or you can contact us on the World Wide Web at www.lmn.org.